quite a few games by now that you can really analyze within that tournament where Tempo Storm has played on Volskaya. That's why I personally question a little bit what happens on the second map if Tempo Storm still picks it or if they are saying, hey, we need to change it up right now.
All right, let's get into it then. Game number 1 here. TheOne goes up against Tempo Storm in this best of 2.
Well, as we head into Infernal, I mean, this is a map where we've seen a lot of Alex Strasser play out of the Chinese region, and we did see that Kael'thas pick come through against Fnatic, so it's an interesting pick here, and I think that TheOne just feels comfortable on this map, but we're mostly talking about TheOne as the underdogs here, right? The team that's going to struggle the most and how much they need to prepare, but no doubt, Tempo Storm already saw what happened to Fnatic. They're going to try to avoid allowing us a draft like that to come through here if it starts to feel like we're going to see one of those Kael'thas drafts.
And the one thing that the Chinese teams in general are extremely known for is usually the aggression, and once they gain momentum in a game, you oftentimes end up in a lot of trouble. They tend to overextend though, so that's something that you can exploit if it comes to that. So an aggressive draft is what we are probably expecting from TheOne here once again. Oh, Johanna banned out.
Really jumping up in priority.
Yeah, she is leaping up there, probably to the delight of our interviewer Heku, but either way, she has been performing very well. So a very suitable ban here from Tempo. We also know that she can work for TheOne. They like to ban out these blinds because a lot of their main carry heroes can be badly affected by blinds or attack speed slows, but Arthas seems to be very much out of this particular tournament meta. And Tempo Storm starting off with the Maiev.
Well, Johanna's banned, so Tempo Storm says this is a top-tier hero right now. One of the ways to deal with Maiev is a strong frontliner like Johanna who can just cleanse herself with her Iron Skin to avoid this. So he's just saying, all right, you took the Johanna away. Now you don't have Johanna to deal with our Maiev. I think it's a strong first rotation here.
I think Malfurion is a given at this point. That should be
I would hope so.
That's something that we should see here after how the tournament has so far gone. The question for me is if they are already committing to the tank here. With Garrosh banned and Johanna as a response, if they don't pick a tank now, then there's a very good chance that Tempo Storm picks a tank for themselves and even chokes them out.
Yeah.
TheOne haven't actually had the chance to play Malfurion in all tournaments so far, so they did play it in HGC China a fair amount, but they do like their aggressive supports like Rhaegar, etc. a little bit as well. So I would really hope that Malfurion would be part of their opening salvo here. And it is with the Sonya as well, so a great hero for Hugo.
A very different draft to the one that we saw where they ran the Kael'thas and the Alex Strasser, where they prioritized early on the Malthael. Sure, they had Maiev in that draft, and now that Maev's taken away, that kind of really shuts down all that style of drafting. I don't even think we're necessarily going to see, or you know, they would have definitely moved away from the Alex Strasser with Malfurion available here anyways, but I think this is going to be where we see TheOne change it up a little bit, move away from their comfort picks, move away from their kind of unusual Chinese-style drafting.
Yeah, I suppose Kaldor drafting the Sonya there as opposed to maybe a warrior kind of softens the blow a little bit of eventually having to go for a less premium tank, but at the same time, you know, it still is a bit of an odd spot to be in.
Well, one of the things that we can talk about there is that Sonya has been played by Tempo Storm more so than any other hero outside of Garrosh.
So
I think that might definitely have played a bit of a role of the priority that we see for her. Because I was expecting them, as I mentioned before, to head into a tank. That wasn't the case, but if you're already thinking about the offlane, I think it's a good pick to say, okay, we need Sonya right now. She has risen in priority throughout the tournament in general, and especially for Tempo Storm, she played a huge role. So I think that's still fair.
True.
BTC in play. I wouldn't mind seeing a Uther ban to prevent the Divine Shield for the Maiev, unless you plan on going something like Lunara yourself. Otherwise, Stukov could also be reasonable if you're looking in the support style direction in terms of your bans.
Yeah, I think the Stukov ban is smart, but it's not necessarily required here because there's a lot of other ways you can use the supports available here to make this composition work. Even Rhaegar is not terrible in this situation for the Battleground. I think Stukov is the safest ban here, but you're kind of showing your cards a little bit there with that one.
The thing is, I personally would be a bit afraid of Stukov in the hands of Tempo Storm, not only because June has been absolutely killing it on the hero, but the problem that you have with Stukov is oftentimes that you want to have a bit more sustain on the rest of your team, and you have already Prog Rock on the side of ETC, which really helps you with that, and there's also Blaze open. So both of those together with a Stukov would make for a fantastic draft for Tempo Storm, and TheOne, they recognize that. They've definitely done their research here, and they take him away.
That's good. Exactly what you were asking for. Preparing a draft for Tempo Storm. Not exactly on Volskaya, like you were saying, but every time we see teams that have very clearly done research, it's always a pleasure to see. So now Tempo Storm, what are they going to prioritize here?
Coming back to your point, especially when you're seeing China, because that was one of my biggest criticisms when we saw the teams at BlizzCon last year, that they clearly hadn't done any research whatsoever. So seeing that right now, that already makes me quite happy, because TheOne at least takes this extremely serious and isn't just simply saying, as long as we get our draft, we take them down. They analyze what Tempo Storm usually plays, what their fallback options are, and trying to deny them.
And Tempo Storm have, of course, done the same, banning the Genji, Meng's most played hero, and best success hero as well. They are absolutely, right now, honestly, they are breaking down a lot of TheOne's priorities here.
There's not a lot of heroes that work well with Malfury and Sonya left available here, I feel, in terms of DPS for TheOne, in terms of hero pools. So Tracer sure is available, but I don't think a great choice here. You could run the task Tracer into the Hanzo, but we've already seen that. That's a pretty, I feel like that's a pretty amateur move at this point. It's not having a lot of success. It feels like you can get in there and kill the Hanzo, but at this level of play, especially with a frontliner like ETC, you're really risking it. The Genji ban is just safe because of Meng, as you mentioned, even though Genji's win rate is very, very low at the moment, despite high priority. So for TheOne, I think they're going to show some colors here. I mean, they've prioritized the Thrall a lot, but mostly as a solo laner. Sonya's already locked in, and they're going to have to move out of the comfort zone here. It's going to be Phoenix.
Have they played Phoenix yet?
I don't think so. And the Arthas we've been all wanting to see finally makes an appearance. I don't know if this is the draft we were looking for, but still.
He's Arthas has basically only exclusively come out in HGC China when they're about to pick an Illidan, but the fact is they already have Sonya. So the odds of them picking the Illidan here, especially seeing as Hugo plays both those heroes, is absurdly low. But bringing out the Arthas here is very peculiar, but could give them some crazy area control.
Also explains right away why they didn't even bother picking a tank in the earlier rotation, because who's going to take Arthas away from you?
Not likely.
I like Phoenix though, because I was a bit afraid that they would fall back into some kind of Vala draft that they've tried now several times and it has not worked for them once. So that they're going into a different option. I really like it. Phoenix at least gives them a bit more AoE damage, so they have a lot of options with him. Arthas is definitely going to be a game changer. And I'm a bit curious to see how Tempo Storm reacts to that now.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, the whole day, no Valor whatsoever from anybody, because I mean, it's not worked out for too many people at all, unless the skill gap has been severe for like a Korean team.
Malthael, wonderful hero versus the Arthas, and taking the Alexstrasza themselves here. Honestly, looking at the Tempo Storm draft, it's very similar to the draft that TheOne did run.
Yeah, actually.
Just replacing Kael'thas with Hanzo. But either way, TheOne, they now have a very potentially vulnerable solo tank to Malthael, so they might need... Sonya's going to have a work cut out for her as well.
I feel like Burst is a good idea here with the comp we're up against for Tempo Storm. As long as you've got ranged Burst, something like a Jaina or even a Gul'dan wouldn't be horrible here, because you have predictable areas where people are going to be because of the Alexstrasza pick.
Should be Andre's hero left as well.
Yeah.
This would be a mage if they were going for one. So Jaina, especially, to try and kite ETC could be pretty monstrous. The return of Kael'thas, another interrupt from Moshpit, could be super solid.
Kael'thas, I think, would be really overstepping boundaries here, though, against the ETC pick with the Maiev. It's so
Li Ming would be a classic.
Li
Li Ming's the go-to, I would say.
Li Ming could work.
Maiev is definitely the game changer, I feel. If you have someone that has no escape and no chance to just ice block, walk away, or has an escape tool, then you are in trouble. But we see a Tracer coming in on the last position.
This ruins the whole draft for me. I was really excited to see what Arthas was going to empower. I feel like you've got an Arthas and a Burst Mage like a Jaina or even a Gul'dan. Li Ming is not the worst. You've got someone locked down in a place. You know where the heal's going to be, so you can play around that with the Arthas. You could slow. And then suddenly, this draft makes a lot of sense. But you've got Tracer. Sure, she gets benefits from the slows that we're seeing from the Arthas, but at the same time, I feel like when you look at the Tracer draft coming through, there's not enough support, there's not enough heals, so she's just simply going to die.
Malfurion's heal split between two such squishy assassins like Phoenix and Tracer. I'm really concerned.
Time for predictions.
Tempo Storm only need one win to guarantee themselves into the groups. I've got to lean towards Tempo Storm. Their draft just makes more sense to me in my head.
I actually don't mind the Tracer as much as the two of you. I think with Malfurion together in the protection, especially with only one real stun on the side of Tempo Storm, you can make some plays there. But I was impressed by Tempo Storm throughout the tournament. They had a bit of a problem when they were playing against Fnatic there, but I think Tempo Storm still has it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is pretty simple for me with Tempo Storm. They're the stronger team. The Tracer, I don't like it. I don't like to predict with the Alexstrasza. I'm usually the Alexstrasza hater, as you guys know, but in this case, I'm going to have to go Tempo Storm.
Up until that Tracer, I was going to go the one, but I'm not now.
I actually was as well. If they picked a mage,
Yeah.
like Wolf said, I was on board with the one.
Yeah, which would have been, considering power levels, kind of a bit of a push. But anyway, regardless, going with the Tempo Storm there. Let's see what guys in Twitch chat think as well. It's going to be 23% to 77% there in favor of Tempo Storm. And let's check in with our commentators as well to get their thoughts. What do you guys think?
Alexstrasza, normally a little bit questionable, but I'd say Infernal Shrine's tempo seems to be okay in my books. How about you?
It's one of the go-tos for June whenever we get to this battleground, so I'm feeling a little bit confident in it. And, you know, Tempo Storm, as you guys have said, you know, they've been looking pretty good here.
How did the Tracer for you guys kind of iron things out for the ones drafted in the end?
Wolf probably put it a little bit more harshly than I would have, but I'm not a big fan of it here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a snap like ruined the entirety of the draft, but, you know, I definitely have my moment of pause at least.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy the game.
All right, Dread, Tempo Storm, we know, wants to try and qualify, get it out of the way now, just game number 1. Feeling pretty good about it. How about you?
I'm feeling pretty good about it, but, you know, there's one thing to keep in mind is the fact that the one is pretty darn good at Infernal Shrine, so I feel like this is going to be an interesting matchup here for the two teams, but the one here in the blue is looking for a win with Hugo on Sonya, ZJZ on the Malfurion, Andre on his Phoenix, Arthas played by Hehe, and Mang on Tracer.
On the right side will be that of Tempo Storm here, as we will have Psalm on the Maiev, his birthday present, believe it or not. Caterpillar on the ETC, Fan on Hanzo, Glaurung on Malthael, June rented it out on the Alexstrasza. And Dreadnought, Gilly told us one thing and one thing only, and we were sitting there waiting for this. She's like, they gave them the one map.
The one map! You had one job, Tempo, and you chose Infernal Shrines.
Well, we're going to see if the one can make it the one. They've had a little bit of success here so far. They picked up the victory the other day, and they fought close the last time they were here against some tough competition. So see how it plays out.
Yeah, and to be fair, it wasn't as extreme as I just made it out to be, but definitely highlighting, you know, a very risky decision here for our North American representatives. But so far, they have a very, you know, kind of high lethality 4-man within the ETC and the Maiev alone. Not even, you know, Hanzo is nothing to laugh at when it comes out to the damage. So it's really can the one, you know, be able to match the tempo that conveniently enough Tempo Storm is going to set. And right now they're doing that, you know, with the opposite pressure here with Mang transitioning toward top.
Yeah, you look at the composition of Tempo Storm and you say, well, all we've really got is a Hanzo and a Maiev. It doesn't really scream significant wave clear to really emphasize the double lane rotation. So now that's actually forced a response here out of Tempo. That's actually a really good tether in. That's actually going to lead to first blood here by Psalm. Nice rotation up to take care of that pressure.
Yeah, great job there from Tempo Storm. And the one, once again, opening with the China Classic of a 2-1-2. I can't help but feel like this was one of those circumstances where it was holding that, you know, top half lane pressure from Mang a little bit too long. We see teams oftentimes cycle that pressure towards the off lane, but typically it's only for 1 to 2 waves, or, you know, 1 to 1.5. And I feel like that is one of those things that we need to see Mang and friends here clean up. And with that kill, Tempo get a pretty easy invade here over to the camp.
Yeah, it gives them a lot. It forced Tracer to stay up there. We know that Tempo Storm loves to get on the either the global of Dahaka or something like On a Pale Horse, which started to originate really in that North American scene. They ran it a lot in the early part of this year, getting that quick rotation down in case a fight did break out. You'd have the numbers advantage, so definitely flexing a little bit of early game muscle.
Yeah, with the double camp and the siege potential, they got a lot here. The one going to try and get an answer with a pulse bomb on the Fan. He gets the natural agility over the wall. Hugo, though, comes in and has got enough damage to fight back there. One kill here for the members of the one. Looking for another. ZJD does end up getting tethered back with Andre. No shields, but the one survives.
That's got to feel pretty good because we saw the execution. The setup there was that, look, let the ETC engage, and that minute he slides in, they have no peel, and Mang just capitalized on it, went to that back line, realized there's no threat, no lockdown CC, and that's some of the times with the Tracer Dread, if you don't have that CC, you're going to have a difficult time controlling her. Right now you've got tethers and a power slide, which is no easy task to hit against the Tracer.
And I feel like this game, how we look at the experience, we look at, you know, the kills and how this is already unfolded, and I feel like it is a perfect, you know, kind of stereotype being fulfilled, if you will, for both of the teams. Tempo Storm, you know, got one kill, and we do see the answer from the members of the one, but just purely off of the rotations and macros, sieging up in the front wall, we see Tempo slightly pull ahead. And that's one of those major concerns that we always have to have when looking at the Chinese teams. They are amazing when it comes to the skirmishes, but if they let that happen on multiple fronts, it's going to be very difficult. And Tempo is not done yet with the siege opportunities on the Shaman camp on the top half, mixed with starting it. TheOne is answering, but I can't help but feel like this is going to be a little bit too, it's not getting as much as Tempo will on the top half.
And part of that reason, Dreadnought, was because that Shaman camp was picked up as well in that top lane. Yes, they're going to get some significant value, and they've already traded out 2 towers between the mid and bot, as we can see there. But right now, this is just going to empower the push even more. This entire wall is going to go down the Punisher. What can Tempo get out of that? I think for TheOne, they've committed themselves, and I don't know. I think they're going to find out very quickly when this Punisher spawns. They might have overstayed just a little bit too long.
And I will say that this strategy that we see from TheOne typically is, if without that kind of kill that happened at the earlier stages, is it very effective at winning the race towards the 10 half of the map. But Tempo had a brilliant response, as you highlighted. It's that Shaman camp. It is a very big difference from what we normally see with this kind of heads-up play on the side of Tempo Storm. 33 skeletal defenders. That is going to be a Punisher behind that. And look at this, Tempo Storm already working here onto the keep front wall, whereas TheOne now is just looking for the first forts.
Well, I mean, they get a kill, and they've put some damage on, and Phoenix obviously being left alone down there in the bottom. Look, all I know right now is we see Tempo. They've actually stood off of that. They're willing to commit whenever they do get that Punisher, Dreadnought. This is, to me, a committal towards the keep, because when we take another look at that top lane, that entire wall is down. We are looking at Tempo Storm. They might even go back and try and work towards 10 and then get Punisher and try and end the game. That is where the risk lies right now.
That's what I want to highlight. Does Tempo Storm finish this? They will before the 10, because I can't help but feel like I don't know if Tempo Storm is realistically going to get this keep damage in the same manner that they want if they pick this up at the 9 mark versus the 10. I can't help but feel like waiting till 9.5 would have been the safer choice here. Another Shaman camp will help out, but TheOne has a full opportunity to move past this Punisher and force the fight. But if they fail, Tempo will take the keep, take 10s, and maybe more than that.
Well, we've seen Tracer do just that. We'll see if Tracer can go in, but that's not going to help, as the Pulse Bomb is going to be negated by the fact that the Punisher says, get out of here. Nothing but a Nature's Cleanse, Nature's Cure helping out there. The keep, half health.
It's going to be very close to 10 here as the experience slowly trickling up once this keep ends up dropping. Not quite there, I don't believe. No, my math is hella off there. He do end up getting the 10s, but not pulling the trigger right away for Tempo Storm, wanting to get that initiation, just going to back out, look to be able to get the clear. When it comes to heroic choice, we do not get ourselves the Tormented Soul, and in fact will be the last right. It's a bit more common within the North American region, so no surprise to see that picked up, especially into a Malfurion. Pretty hard to, kind of stop that damage from coming through.
Let's look at the big picture here. TheOne, they traded out, they got the mid wall. We can see that down. They got the bottom wall and an entire fort. Yes, the mid one is a little bit vulnerable and a little bit low, but in the grand scheme of things, you gave up an entire wall, you gave up an entire fort, then you gave up a keep wall and an entire keep. I'd say the winning trade has got to be on Tempo Storm's side. I can see where TheOne is going, but they're going to have to take a team fight post 10 to really make this worth it, to get that next Punisher and see if they can try and make something happen off that.
The one, silver lining as well for TheOne is that the fact that they have been able to kind of open up more angles of the map, right? With middle fort nearly about dead, and if they get any kind of siege like they're posing on the top half of the map here, it's more likely that because the randomness of the Punisher, that each Punisher is going to be impactful, but, the inconvenience of that top lane. If Tempo Storm, again, finds themselves with it, it gets a lot more dour here. So, I mean, to be honest, it's not very common that we see this level of disparity when it comes to structures. So, normally I'd be like, well, here is the ins and outs of every one of this situation, but for now, I feel like, as you said, Tempo's significant lead, and it's going to be kind of mounting on the top half. But I want to see what is the response here from TheOne, because it's very obvious this was the game plan since square one.
Yeah, I think, again, it will come down to the next Punisher, and it's really weird, right? Because you think, all right, well, you can't give up catapults pushing. The one thing is, though, we're looking at very early catapults. They don't necessarily mount up on the keep or on the core as much as the later ones, obviously. So they're not as big of a threat. They're not as instant of a response as needed, but it's definitely something that the timer, we talk about the timer, say level 20 on, you think that timer is much shorter on catapults. Right now, that timer's a little bit longer, so you have a little bit more leeway, but still, it's going to be something that will eventually have to be responded to.
Shaman camp on the top half, will be able to aid with some of those catapults, but as you said, they aren't that impactful, and even then, if it gets it to the core, it's not that big of a deal. So the Shaman camp for Tempo is essentially useless. Garling actually gets caught out by the Howling Blast, tries to get the teleport orbital after the Pulse Bomb goes through, and the whiffed Dragon's Arrow there. Tempo Storm lose themselves a member. TheOne there, great job.
the flank there, you got to wonder, is it worth it to be that far out? Unfortunately for Glowering, he found out it is not indeed. A nice flank there by TheOne, and just in time, you know, Malthael still 10 seconds out. Shrine activating here about 15 seconds behind that. Cattle's like, look, I don't want to be rooted either, so I'm going to get out of here.
Yeah, I would have argued, you know, you could see Glowering going for the curtain kind of attempt to be able to W away from that Howling Blast attempt, but I felt like that was one of those situations I would have liked to see Glowering, you know, dodge backwards because it was a very expected Howling Blast position.
And then go back.
Yes, and he instead went right into it, so I can't help but feel like that was one of those moments. I expected Glowering to be able to survive that there, but good job from TheOne forcing the hand. You know, the biggest conundrum, though, as we have kind of highlighted with the experience Tempo has gained, is that it's sitting at that 13 spike, which leads to quite a few of these defenders for nearly free.
This positioning is interesting, right? You can actually see Arthas on the minimap. He was kind of hanging in the bush, seeing, scouting, maybe anchoring, looking for the flank. But as you said, the threat of 13, and at this point, when you get to about 20 and you're going into an Alex Straza, the odds of you getting that, it's not very likely. So we got to go back to the first minute, 2 minutes of the game when Tempo Storm invaded on that early camp. They were able to push in and actually get some value. So that mid-fort wall is down. So this Punisher could be pretty impactful as we start to progress through this.
Oh, Psalm's going to go ahead and pick up 39. Fan, though, out too far. Post bomb down. And that is exactly what TheOne needed. They were waiting their cocky position and coming out from Fan after thinking that they had already won the fight. Howling Blast will not land here, but surely a pure, you know, moment to be able to respond to this try. And keep in mind, Tempo just needs to throw one major skill shot into that. But now let's look at how many ranged hard damages that they have. Really, it's going to be Maiev E, which is coming from up above in a couple of seconds here out from Tempo.
You also,
oh, wow, Cleansing Flame just to secure it. I can't help but say, I don't think that's worth. Like, it's not a big setback, but to risk that versus Psalm's E, I feel like that was, you know, Tempo, you know, being very scared after that play from TheOne.
Just the minor missteps, they're very uncharacteristic of what just happened there. I mean, the fact that he walked forward, hold on a second, Dread.
Yeah, oh my, Dragon's Arrow from downtown with the last rights onto Andre. Tempo Storm says down, Fan, nobody cares. Punisher alley-oop. And 2 for nothing there. Tempo Storm turned this fight right up.
I might have died. I might be clear across the other side of the map. But check this out. I mean, that right there was a highlight play. Talk about making up for it.
Yeah, my goodness, absolutely.
It was the plan all along, Dreadnought. Let's be real here.
Yeah, he's like, guys, I got this. Watch, check this bait. We'll get the post bomb down and the all in there. I mean, my goodness, it absolutely was a moment where you got to go. I mean, Fan, you know, you sit there and you just said it's so uncharacteristic, and he quickly, you know, redeems himself.
All I know is every time I die as Hanzo, it's so I can go back and rip those long-distance Dragon Arrows every time. Hashtag worth. But either
especially
way,
post 20, right? Play the game. You got to feel good with that one.
Who
cares about 60-second death timers?
The longer I go, the more the stun. I mean, clearly calculated. But either way, Tempo Storm now approaching level 16, TheOne. They're not going to have that opportunity to fight right now, still dealing with the catapults on the top. Right now, for them, this is an opportunity for them to get experience back, get it through structures. The problem that they're going to have Dreadnought, Tempo Storm's going to see 4 members up here. They're going to continue to just push down bot lane, and with this camp, this is not a trade TheOne is going to be ready for.
Yeah, and it only gets amplified by the fact that we see TheOne willing to get that siege up, and we know Tempo's trading up in favor of themselves, and TheOne is doing as best they can in this response. It's not a poor response by any means, but with this siege up, it's giving Tempo not only pressure on the top half with that already early game keep, but now they already have damage set up for the bottom half, which the Punisher is going to be in this exact lane. And more importantly, now they have split pressure with double catapults on opposite side of the map if they secure this keep.
Honestly, it feels like this is pretty common, right? I mean, you see the other team push, they have to get experience in the other lane.
Yeah.
The problem is I felt the response was a little bit slow. Generally, you're giving up keep wall, maybe a little bit of keep damage. They gave up an entire keep out of that. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're close to 16, but I mean, they basically put themselves with not many lives left.
And I think you're putting it out great here. There's 2 situations that I think TheOne had to decide on, and it's very time sensitive on both. You either, one, already predict the transition on Tempo Storm and the problem 30 seconds in advance, and you 5-man deathball on the top half of the map, and you start sieging before they even start getting that play, and you're so effective as a 5-man, it's worth it, and then you can back and respond effectively. Or if you don't get that fast enough, you go with a 2 to 3 men on the top half, soak through mid, and then get a slow response, adding people over time while somebody's still sieging. But we saw neither decision made. We saw the 5-man commitment without the 30-second identifier, and that is why Tempo got a keep where in most cases you say that's half my keep, you know, maybe 25% HP. And so, I mean, that's back-to-back macro decision that we've seen, you know, early game and mid that now honestly feel like is the large reason why the One find themselves a level down.
Well, they find themselves a level down. They do find themselves on even talent here. You can see the Shaman camp over the top will push with those catapults. For Tempo Storm, they win a team fight. They win the game essentially at this point because the Punisher 2 keeps down. It's a hard defense. For the One, you've basically committed yourself. You've put yourself in this position. This is your bed. Are you going to lie in it or are you going to dig yourself out? And so the One right now, this is desperation time. This might be their last opportunity. And that flank right there of Arthas, look at that mini-map, Dread.
It is perfect positioning there. Arthas already to the right-hand side. Tempo not knowing. Nobody has checked out whatsoever. But then the reveal there, hey, is going to get scouted out. Psalm knows. Focus goes there, already getting the damage out. Oh man, Power Slide, he's in a bad spot there. The Warden's Cage ends up getting dropped. Last right is going to be Andre's last right there. Salvo goes down, great job with the passive there. And the Cleansing Flame from above. Hugo trying to be able to get the kite out as Psalm skirts over the wall there. Hugo trying to spin to win, keep himself alive. But Glaurung ends up getting the damage and the kill. Will we see Meng get the cleanup here? That's
He's got a couple very low targets. Psalm barely getting away. Does he have the blink? He did get the blink. He got it over. All of a sudden, we're looking at a 2 for 2, and we still have multiple members here. The Dragon Queen is out. The Power Slide is in. Nice cleanse onto Andre, but Glaurung's starting to do work here, Dreadnought.
Yeah, got a lot of damage. Oh, but the Twilight Dream denies the teleport and the secure on the kill there from Glaurung. All the damage coming through. Alex Heal is there. The Power Slide, the knockback in Tempo. Hold on here. Damage onto the core is coming through with those 3 catapults. Somebody on the One needs to get an answer. Arthas will end up getting the spawn, so that will be a slow response here. Tempo 5 up when it comes to those skeletal defenders. And keep in mind, there is no keep on bottom, ladies and gentlemen, if Tempo gets this Punisher.
June just continues to climb the ranks of supports in every imaginable way. This tournament for me, Dreadnought, June has put himself up at the top with the world's best, and right there was a good reason why, and everything he's done up until this point. But the One finding a way to almost hang on there, it just hasn't been enough yet. And June is a big reason why, because if Glaurung dies there, and he was fractions of a second away from dying, we could be looking at the One getting the Punisher and turning this game around, at least for the moment. But looks like now Tempo Storm looking for the victory march.
Silver linings here for the One. Mid-keep is still alive, and it's very easy to bait that Punisher, at least for 1 leap rotation up towards that middle half of the map. Typically, it's going to draw either, you know, the Icebound Fortitude, the Wrath out of the, you know, the Sonya, or maybe a teleport there from the Phoenix. Either way, somebody needs to make sure they get that bait. And notice how nobody is even considering getting the clear on the bottom half of the map. I can't help but feel like that is a big mistake by the One here, as they only need 1 skeleton defender. And now the One very kind of out of position. They have to fight from above, otherwise that Punisher's going to just leap on them.
They can get past it. The Punisher, I think they're out of range. They're looking for a fight behind it, but this is an arcane Punisher, and those sentries are going around. Pulse Bomb goes out, Cleansing Flame. And it's kind of hard to take a fight when the other team has ways to run away from you.
Are they just going to throw out a Dragon's Arrow and just say Nye on the backs? Yeah, they are. It's going to hit not the Arthas, so everybody managed to make it back. Tempo Storm's Dragon's Arrow is a little slow, but the Punisher ends up leaping in, and Tempo now looking towards this core. Psalm not even wasting any time getting the damage out. The Salvo threatens Cattle back. Punisher leap up in a few. The Warden's Cage goes down. He doing his best here, but the last rites goes through. He has the heals. He keeps himself up, but the Punisher leap locks it down there with the Twilight Dream coming out from the members of Tempo Storm. And with that, it looks like Tempo Storm found themselves a victory here, even on Infernal Shrines.
The One, they gave them all they can handle, and they came out with a unique draft. You know, Dreadnought, sometimes we see these teams and we're like, what are you going to do differently if you feel that you can't match up toe-to-toe? How else can you do it? And the One finding creative ways to do this, you could see the opportunities that they were making. Unfortunately, those opportunities were not very many, but still, you got to give credit to the One for hanging in there in tough circumstances and creating opportunities. They were just way too limited, and Tempo Storm way too experienced.
Yeah, you know, I can't. You heard a massive amount of fear coming out from me with the decision making to go up above, but you know, upon reflection, I just didn't think Tempo Storm would let them separate from the Punisher as well as they end up doing. But that being said, that was, I mean, no matter what, the only fight that we could really see the One take and be able to return that game. So, you know, honestly, I have a lot more praise now looking at how well they executed that in Tempo Storm, you know, kind of giving that up to them. In the end, Tempo gets the win, but there are definitely signs of life here out from the One.
Signs of life. We're going to send it over to a few more people that probably have a lot more insight and a lot more time to do that. Kalaris, take it away.